Hey, y'all, what is up? What is going on? It's a lovely Sunday evening, and here we are on the Infinity Creators. I hope y'all are doing great out there. Hope you had some great weekend. I know it's almost over. Get ready to start the work week, but here we're going to smooth it out for you so you have some good times during the work week. And once again, I am joined by Mr. DJ, aka Tech and Collect. How you doing, sir? We can't hear you.
Very good. How about yourself, Dante?
uh, hey, how you doing, 1-6 shooter? Hope you're doing great. And if this is your first time coming to the show, remember you can always find us at Instagram at Infinity Equation and on Twitter at Infinity Equation. Or you can join the Facebook group as well at Infinity Equation Facebook group. And you can always follow my good friend here at Tech Collect on Instagram and Twitter. Yeah, I like that.
Oh, well, quick correction for Instagram, underscore between the ends. Yeah, my old one got blocked up.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll fix
No worries.
that. I will fix that for you, sir. But hope everybody's doing well. So we got a couple of topics that we're going to go delve into today. But if you have any questions, please feel free to always ask and chime in. We're more than welcome to you. We'll definitely be welcome to. Excuse me, I shouldn't say. Let me reverse that. Blah, blah, blah. We're always happy to answer any questions you may have because it is a deep dive into 3D printing, into the world of creating and wanting to create your own items and get into that creation process. So it's a lot. It does take a little bit of money and time, but once you get into the swing of things, you're good to go. You'll be on a roll. So how you doing, DJ? How's your week been, sir?
Work, and first day off, and I couldn't be happier to be doing this. And so get things going. I'm sure you probably got quite a few questions since the last one, as did I, and a lot about just setting up the printers in general and like the frequently asked questions.
Yes.
And so, like I said, I think it's a great time to try to go over all those now. Hit the floor running, so that way anyone who's already got the equipment or is contemplating it, they know what they're getting into, and hopefully step off on the right foot. Right now, I'm just trying to find a picture. I guess if you want to, if you're able to pull up a picture of an Ender 3, I think that's a good common one that people might have, and we can kind of go over some of the FDM basics.
Let's get the Ender series here. We want to do the high pro one, precision,
or just Ender 3 Pro. I think that's probably like the most common one. And everything else is kind of a variant off that.
Let's see, Ender 3. Oh, here it is. Okay. Hey, what's going on, Devin? That's my cousin. What is going on, sir? All right, so let me share the screen here. Close this up real quick. Yeah. All right, so let's go on to AppNola as well. Here we have. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the 3, but the 5 is also very nice. But we can still go over kind of cover the same points.
Yeah, I thought I picked the 3. Hold on, I didn't. Gotta click happy there. Yeah, they did have different 3s here.
Oh yeah, they changed it up. It is the 179. Yeah, the 179 and the 223 are pretty much about the same.
Gotcha.
Opens
up on this year. Yeah, unfortunately, I went with the Creality one because, like I said, they have this on there.
Oh yeah. So I'd say this is probably one of the most common ones out there that people have seen, that's been around for about 5 years or so, if not more. And just the breakdown on it, you have a controller board that, of course, you go through and do make your selections from your micro SD card, which is inserted on the other panel over to the left. and once you've selected a file, it'll start to print. The things you have to do before that is, of course, assemble. And one of the easy things to overlook when assembling is just making sure that all of your rods and things are well squared. If you have an angle, that's perfect. So you can go through and just make sure everything's as just so as possible, because all these little minute things will show up over time. As soon as you have print failures, you'll have to go and track down what the cause is, and these are the things that to help eliminate some of that searching back later. Because I've helped quite a few. Just had to rebuild someone's this week, and they had some rods backwards and things. So I think it's a great time to talk about it. But once you have everything positioned well and tightened, and by tighten I mean you really want to crank these down. Of course, you don't want to strip the threads, and if you want to go a step beyond, you could potentially put a small rubber washer dampener ring in between some of the screws where they meet, because these are all things that will help absorb the vibrations from the machine as it's running. Or you can get some Loctite,
Yeah.
and to once again just make sure the frame is as sturdy as can be. From there, once you have your assembly, the next concern is the belts on the X and Y axis. There's tensioners at the ends of either one, and what most have to do is you'll take the large Allen wrench, and I wish I had mine by me to show. The set will come with a set of tools. You'll take a large Allen wrench, pitch it between your fingers, and pull back to create tension. And you want to make sure that the belt is taut enough that it stays in the same path of motion. Because if it's too tight or too loose, you'll see it shift to one side or the other and not stay centered along the pulley. Um, from there, once you know that's in a good position, tighten down. Do it the same for both belts. And if you want to go a step further, there's plenty of options on Thingiverse where you can actually download some replacement parts, or there's even metal hardware that you can order online to replace the ones that the OEM tensioner with one that's adjustable. So now you have a knob on it. It's way easier. Swap, put your belt on, twist the knob until you reach the ideal tension. And again, these are all the little things that will go miles in your print quality. Because with the machine being stable, the only thing that you could do from there is making sure it's on a super stable surface. If you're able to have it like in your basement on foundations, concrete, any of these things that really absorb vibrations, they all allow you to not only have a better quality of print, but be able to do things like speed up your prints. And right now my setup is mostly in the attic, and it's an older home, and I'm not able to push the thresholds like I was in my old place, where I had them in a basement where the temperature was a lot better regulated. And the best thing of all was it was on cement floor, and most of these I could speed up about 20%. It was wonderful. Hoping to get to that setup again here at some point, but no, that for another day.
Um,
So go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to throw in there too. When you're setting these up and you're getting and you're looking for PLA, most PLA is universal with these printers, but always double check them, because each PLA plastic that you get, filament, I should say, PLA filament, has a temperature on there that it'll work with, and usually it will be on the spool itself. I don't have a spool down here to take a look at. There's one that I've purchased from Printing Solid. It's a local company, local business here in Delaware. They have a ton of printer PLA filament colors that you can choose from. It's ridiculous, like how much you can just choose from them. But on there, and always just double check the printing temperature, because everything that you print out, depending, let's say you're familiar with this filament and you get a new film, like, oh, I want to try this and see how it's going to work out. It's not going to always work at the same temperature, because it may need to be heated to a higher temperature, or you have to lower your temperature as well. So that's something to always keep in mind too when you're doing PLA filament.
Perfect point. I was about to say as well, because I used Hatchbox, or Hatchbox, I believe is
Mhm.
the name. for many
Yes.
years. That was like my go-to. I started off with it. I'd heard good things, and it was wonderful. It worked great. And then the pandemic came, and it was harder to find, and so I had to start swapping up brands. And that's where I came in with issues because I was so accustomed to the temperature to use. But it's not only just the PLA brand; it's the colors, the different
Yes.
colors, and there's ones that have like composition versions that have like little bits of wood and different things. These are all factors. And even though it has a temperature range on it that's ideal, you'll still want to test. You might want to test at the high end or low end based on prior experience with others. For example, I have one now that um, I think I was printing before at 225 with Hatchbox, and now I'm printing
Mhm.
at like 195 with um, what is the name? It is Overture. I think it's like one of the Amazon versions.
Okay.
Both are black. It's just it's a difference in brand, and it also 30 degrees. And same with I tried Sun Lu for a while, and that one was at like 200, 205. And then with Sun Lu White, it would be, I think I'd have to increase it like 10 degrees. And same with the Overture as well. Again, there's all these little things become factors, and it's always good to have like a small print that you can test.
Yeah.
One thing that you'll also notice on a lot of prints that what people call the elephant's foot, and by and large, that's something that you can minimize, but I'd say you can't get rid of it. It's just kind of the nature of what happens when the model begins to squish. And I'm not sure how well. Oh, this one has a good one. Um, you can see that extra ring where it kind of lumps out because it was putting on extra material. And that no, it's a result of how high it is from the build plate when it starts to lay those layers, and you'll define that point. The only workaround to avoid an elephant's foot is to alter the model in such a way that you create a bevel on the very bottom layer so that when it squishes, it compensates so that when the next layer goes, it'll go up. So it's an extra step, and most of the time it's not worth it. Most people would rather just sand the edges real quick. Otherwise, if it's something of such detail importance, usually try to go with a resin if possible. But most of the time, just sand it, dial in as best as you can to avoid the elephant foot. The
Hmm.
other option is with some parts, but it costs PLA, is a raft. If you print on a raft, you should not get an elephant's foot. That's it's going to have this whole layer that's going to get squished and offset to begin with, and then it's going to print on top of that material, and it's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
The only way it wouldn't be is again going back to if something's not tightened, so it's offset, and this shows as the machine runs over time that like, oh, there's a bit of a wobble to my print. Well, something might be not quite lined up or as tense as it should be. And
Yeah.
actually, wonder I forgot. I could possibly cut off on this and pull up on my phone, and I could just show the printers and try and answer some of this if that would work.
Yeah. That's
All
fine.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me a minute. I'll be right back. Just
Mm.
need to grab the other headset, and I'll be upstairs.
Okay. So while DJ's doing that, we're gonna talk about kind of also like ideas, like where some of the ideas come from, where um, you want to kind of start designing as well. Uh, but before I jump into that, uh, I'll post a link for Creality's website and later on after the show and description for you. And then also, I'll post a link for Printed Solid's website. As you can see, they have over 585 results for filament. So there's a different color filament for whatever you're looking for. Basically, you can whatever color you're looking for, they'll probably have it as well. Hashbox is also good as well. I have not tried them as yet, but they are pretty. They're pretty good as well too. So I'll post those links after the show in the description for you, and you can take a look at them when you get a chance and see uh, kind of get started from there. So I was like I say, I was talking about ideas. Uh, and we'll when DJ comes back, ask him where he gets his. But for me, at this time, I say most of my ideas come from just reading comics. Anything that I design, I pull up, uh, and try to see like, hey, what do I want to? What kind of something cool can I do to design? Sorry, bringing it. DJ. I was just talking about designs. Coming up with ideas for designs, and like I said, it's just from the comics perspective, and it's not just from like Marvel or DC comics. It's from any comics that I'm reading, perspective wise and design wise, to see like how I want to design it. Right. DJ, can you hear us? I don't know if you can hear us. We can't hear you if you're talking. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Cool. Is my feed up?
Yes, it's up.
Oh, very good. Yeah. So we got the printers here in action, and as you can see, I've gotten quite a few over time, and they're pumping out these vans I'm working on. We got all sorts of filament spools. Actually, let me just get one of these old ones, and we can talk over what he was talking about. So, my screen will not shift on me.
There you
go. Sorry. All right.
There you go.
So we should see some stats. Like we have the weight. What I like about this one is it not only has the nozzle temperature and bed temperature recommendations, it also has this like estimate of how much spool you have left. And I think that is a nice little touch on the Overture. I believe they will be swapped. Yeah, same. I hope they keep it because I believe they're going to be swapping to all cardboard. But if they're able to just still print that on there, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I think there's one I got. Like I said, I got from Purely Solid. I forget what brand it was, but it had like they're all cardboard as well for the spool. Yeah,
because that's my biggest thing is trying to figure out. Always have stacks of them that I don't know what to do.
Right.
So I need to make a spool bot. So going over the system, we have our control panel over there. Over here is where the main board is housed and where you would insert your micro SD card. We have our, probably mixing this up, I think that is our Y belt, and our X belt is on the bar up above. Sorry, it's so dark up here. This is one of the parts where I was talking about that you would have detention. You would insert and pull this back, and while pulling back, tighten these with the other hand. Once you have one tightened, you should be able to release and adjust as necessary. Once you have your printer up and running, if you'd like to be able to fine tune it at any time, though, you can print one of these, and it allows you to just adjust the belt with this little twist of the knob, and it's wonderful. The other recommendation is it comes with a plastic extruder feeder, and it just does not provide as much bite force as you would like for this machine that's going to be constantly feeding plastic through it. And that is one of the first recommendations, but often for about $5 more, you can go not only get this, but you can get a direct drive. And what that does is it moves the extruder motor right over top the print head and removes this Bowden tube, which just is going to, once again, streamline things to help narrow down points of problems. Because this whole tube is a channel where this extruder is pushing and pulling the filament back and forth to the print head, and there's a lot of wiggle room for things to go wrong and it's usually like one of the biggest causes for what people call clogs. So the nozzle gets built up from backflow. It gets wedged in between a gap in the Bowden tube. It begins to push it back, and not enough filaments getting heated up, and then there's just a clog of plastic inside the hot end, and you'll have to heat up the hot end to like higher temperatures, 240, 250, maybe pour some isopropyl alcohol down with it to just try to loosen and clean and push out the plastic, and use a push rod and other things, and it's just a pain. So once again, we want to avoid pains, and for about $15, you can now get the aluminum extruder feeder along with the direct drive, which pretty much puts the tube end right into the hot end, eliminating most of your headaches. From there, the only thing to worry about is the quality of your spool. And that said, with the Overture, I will say there's quite a few where I have like the first strand of it breaks, but then the rest of it's fine, and I'm kind of okay. I've kind of grown used to it. I grab the loop point where it attaches out of the box, break it away, and then I'm able to feed it right in and get going.
So you break it away. I just cut it off. I use my little nippers and cut.
Yeah. Like that's what I normally do, but like I said, there's something weird about the Overture. Like I don't know if it's a planned level brittleness or if it's just how it comes out of the machine. But the rest of it's fine. I was really concerned because it was my first one, and I bought 20 rolls of it. So I was like, oh, this isn't promising. But no, from there though, the whole thing's went, and they even like. You can like bend them and get that stretched plastic look. They won't necessarily just snap. So far it's been pretty good. Oh, that said, look at that. I jinxed myself.
It just snapped.
Yes, sir. Well, that's a failed print.
Yeah.
And so there's things you can do where I could try to figure out the height level and try to continue it, but I'm just going to cut my losses and stop.
Now on those Creality ones, is there a pause? Is there a pause button on there where you can?
Yes.
Okay.
So you can pause, stop. You can go through and do some fine tuning. One of the big tuning things you'll want to do once you have the print job started is probably a Z hop. That's where you can adjust the Z axis just enough for your header to give more clearance or less clearance to adjust your first layer squish, because you want it to squish just right, not too much, not too little. If it's too much, it'll push up the material and it'll eventually remove from the bed. And that's another factor too with like the level of heat. And that's why you often want like the bed hot, or you want to use those flex mats that have bite to them. Because these are all things that hold it down. But with these prints, anything with a large flat surface, I recommend turning up the heat on your build plate, because you'll probably deal with curling.
And actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was thinking about that. I would suggest investing in a flex plate on there, because with those you can just pop it off and just flex it, and it just print pops right off so easily. It's so beautiful.
Show what I'm talking about. Yeah.
You see, they have those flex plates are worth it. Like they just, when you flex them, you can print just pops right off, so you don't have to worry about scratching up everything. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
We do have a question. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah. Most of the time, yeah, those are just the go-to. The only time, like I said, had any problems is when you're dealing with large flat surfaces, but you could still use them. Just try put like a piece of glass and then put it on top of it, and that'll help keep it all flat.
White Mike Vegeta has a question. Says, I'm very interested in getting into 3D printing. What environmental concerns do I need to be careful about as far as a filament printer?
So, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's not too much environmental concerns. It's just, for me, it's just always trying to figure out what to do with the last piece of plastic on that spool and the spool itself. But you're going to be worrying more about the temperature of where you're having your print, where you're putting everything at. That's going to be more of a concern, because trust me, if it gets too hot, if it's too cold, it messes with the filament and the printer itself.
And that's why I definitely recommend going on Amazon. I think for about $10, you can order a pack of these humidity sensors. They'll give you the temperature and humidity. Because yes, like you said, those are big factors. And as you can see, my attic is a nice toasty 83. It works very well for most of the prints, and a very low humidity at this time of year of 12. Most of the year it's 50 or higher, and it's miserable. And I have to run a bunch of dehumidifiers to fight it the best I can. The other compensation is to increase the temperatures to help compensate for that extra moisture, because these most of the filaments are hydroscopic, I think is the right word. They'll absorb moisture from the air, and that of course affects their print quality. And one of the biggest things that'll happen is it'll affect the straightness of the filament. So it'll make the outside thicker and the inside of the spool thinner, and you'll get more breaks. What you can do to resolve that is keep them in like bags like this, which is a bunch of the silica packs that'll come with them. Or you can get a heater, what's a food dehydrator, and pop them inside there, and just run the fan a little toasty for a bit, and they'll dry them out for you. And it'll be like new.
Nice. Now that's new to me. I didn't know about the food dehydrator. That's new to me. That's a new one for me.
Yeah, it certainly helps. But otherwise, with the PLA, for the most part, you're good. You keep as long as the temperature is below 235 degrees Celsius. You don't run any concerns as far as it vaporizing any material in it that you could breathe in. ABS, I believe, has an odor with it. I'm not sure at what temperature or if it's a concern at all times, but most of the times, if there's an odor, try to get air ventilating, or have a nice mask to cover up.
Yeah, ABS. I haven't worked with ABS, but I've seen like the stories with it, how much you guys have to do with it. It's just a pain. It's just too much to do with it, and then trying to clean it as well.
Oh, absolutely. Like it's one of those things. If it's an art that you mastered, it pays off. But man, it is painful to watch.
Yes, indeed. ML Series has a question as well. I'm thinking about running in a cold but dry basement. Should I enclose my filament printer?
Yeah. So if it's cool or dry, it's going to depend. It's going to depend on the size of your prints, and if you have a heated bed. So if you have a heated bed, you can usually compensate in a cool room. If it's a cool room where you have fans on and the air is circulating, now this creates this draft effect, and there's a little bit more factors. If it's just a room, the air is standing, it's cool, you're probably going to be okay, but you're most likely going to have to run the heat bed. That said, if you do get the enclosure for it, I think a lot of those have come down in price. That will save, they'll speed up the time for it to heat up the bed. And if it's something that you're trying to like make like a little mill out of and just constantly keep running, it'll certainly, benefit it.
Yeah, definitely. I haven't fooled with the enclosures yet. I've seen a couple I think the automakers have some. I've seen those with the enclosures.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, if you're going to do that in the cold dry basement, I'd probably say the enclosure would probably be the best bet, a way to go for that. All right.
I think the only thing it didn't cover was probably bed leveling, and with that on the filament printers, most of them there's going to be 4 screws. Hey, let me hop back over there. There'll be these 4 knobs on the bottom of the build plate to help you adjust in the quadrants. And what you'll have to do is bring the print head down till it is just about touching the plate. And if you get metal feeler gauges, that's the best. Then you're just going to know exactly if it's properly spaced or not. Otherwise, what most do is the paper method. I like to find stuff like these little pamphlets, instructions that come with things. I feel like they have this nice consistency to them, and that is well used to go through underneath the print head and make sure it has the right amount of tug. And what the right amount of tug kind of varies from person to person, and how you adjust that is your Z offset and your print settings to either increase or decrease them to, again, make sure that the print head engages at the right point on the build plate. And the other odd one is a BLTouch. I think that's the only other upgrade besides the direct drive. BLTouch is probably one of the more expensive. There is a Creality one, I think, for $30 or $40 now. I love it. I love it way better than the BLTouch one because it comes with a metal pin. Because I don't know who the all-star was who thought a plastic pin on a sensor over a hot bed was a good idea, but yeah, it will just always melt and like bow, and I don't know how good of a sensor it is. So I'll eventually be swapping that one out. Actually, got right there. So let's see.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you could show everybody for those who are not familiar with it and what it looks like.
Yeah, so it's this little sensor, and it goes right on the edge of the print head. And instead of using these other sensors to know when it's reached the end of an axis, it'll hit it with one of the metal frames, click, send a signal, and notice it reaches the end. It'll use this lovely little pinhead, and let me see if I can get it out. I don't think I can because it demagnetizes with a charge. Okay. So there's a magnet in there, and when one runs current, it'll demagnetize it. The pinhead will drop, and it'll lower down once it hits. It'll click back up in place, and it'll do a bed homing setup where it'll go across the whole bed in quadrants and make a map of the height. And it's not a miracle performer. You have to have at least leveled it within good reason. But from there, yes, it will adjust so as it's printing, it knows to slightly lower or raise and keep it all consistent. And it's a butter smoothness top. It is a big improvement. I will say the direct drive, which is again this part, is probably the number one upgrade out of all the upgrades I've done that I would recommend, followed by the BLTouch, and then from there, nice flat surface. There's tempered glass, but if you're able to get mirror, that's usually better because by the nature of how they make mirror, it's a much flatter surface. Glass can have some little bows and deviations to it. Usually a mirror, because they'll see it, it's not going to make it out the floor with those defects, and it's just a much flatter surface. So that's the only other odd upgrade I might do to mine later on.
Very nice. Josh Lumber says that attic is like a Bond villain lab. So much cool craziness going on.
Thank you.
So I was going to say, before we go into going back to ideas, I can take part of my resin printer real quick, and we can break that down as well.
Oh yeah, perfect.
See. So I'm going to switch my camera off and move over to where I have it up. There you go. All right. Let's see if I can do this here. Move my chair over with me. All right. So I don't know. Can you see it? Okay, I can see it.
Yeah, it's perfect.
All right. So this is the Creality resin printer. This is the I keep forgetting it's like the HD2 or something.
Yeah, LD0028.
That's what it is. Thank you.
And the difference between the H and I can't remember if it's a D or what before, is they've gone from a full color LCD to a monochrome LCD.
Yes.
I'll let you go from there.
Thank you. So as you see, it does get a little. Move this up here. I really can't see it. Good. You can't see the rest of specs, but these do get a little dirty. So this one I just cleaned out. So I'll show you here first. This is the resin that I use sometimes. This one is the water washable resin. This is great because I'll, the reason why I love this one a lot more, it's just water. Once the print's done, I can wash it in water, let it sit out and dry, and be done. Or I could put it in the curing machine, which I'll show in a few minutes. But I'm still experimenting with that. But it also with the resin, it tells you, it says how much the exposure is supposed to be. So you see it says bottom exposure 60 seconds, normal exposure is 8 seconds. So that's how you get the best print out of this resin here. Um,
Quick one with that. Um, Back to the full color and monochrome. So that's a factor that you'll want to consider when reading that, because some of these labels have not been updated to what's more modern now, the monochrome screen, which it often cuts the time, in half or to a quarter?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I forgot about that. Thank you. I did forget about that. So just a breakdown of a resin printer. So you have your print bed here, which I'll take off here. And as you see, it's just a metal plate and it just slides on the top here. Screw it in. And then you have your vat where you have your resin sitting. And there's a film here. Now you always want to try to keep it as clean as possible because of the UV rays that are coming from the bottom of the printer. Because if this is really dirty at the bottom, you're not going to get a clean print. So that's one thing to always keep in mind. As you see, there's some residual. I don't know if you can see there's some residual resin in there. You can't really get it in. Can't get it in there because it's screwed in. This film, and this is a nice thing about these too. They're really easy to replace. There's a film that you can get off of Amazon or any other website, and there's a little Allen wrench, and you unscrew this plate pops off here, and then you cut the film to the size that you need, put the plate back on, screw it in, and you're done. That's it. So it's really easy to replace it. With this
I will
one,
say easy but tedious. It feels like
yes,
so many screws.
yeah. You don't know how many times I've hated to replace it. Like, dang, I gotta replace the film. Oh! It is a pain. It truly is a pain. The reason why I like this vat the most because you have little steps here of how much resin is in there, and I don't know if you can really see that there. But
Oh
it's
yeah,
like
it's coming in clear.
little levels. That's beautiful. I love that because I usually fill it up to about this line here, and once it starts getting low, I was like, okay, I gotta add more resin in. So I'll screw this back down in here. Bam. All right, so we're going to go ahead and level it because I just cleaned it out. So you always want to with the resin printer, you always want to re-level it because sometimes I've done it when I first got it that it didn't level correctly after I cleaned it out, and then my print completely messed up. All right, so you have your three options here: tool, system, and print. We're going to go on this tool, and then you see you have manual, and then the home. So it'll just come down, and it'll auto level itself. Now I've seen people who do a little bit more detailing level. I just kind of go with what the printer says, unless there's like some mess up in between. Then I'll go back and adjust it every once in a while. But usually it does a pretty good job of leveling itself. Now you can level it with the vat in there, or you can level it without the vat. I do it with the vat because that tells it where where it's going to be starting to print it. I like to do it that way. It's just me. That's just my.
I'm the same way. I usually have the vat and I have some resin in there, loosen up the screws and drop it down.
Right. So I can go back here. I can hit back. Now, I don't. This is just my. This is just me, and I'm just. This is just my particular stuff. I don't like to do it. I don't like to put resin in there with the bed down. So usually, what I do is I'll go back. Let me go back in here. I'll move it up. Now, You can move it up by 0.10, 1, or 10. 10 millimeters. I always keep it on the highest one because it moves it up a little bit. It moves up further. On this one, it you got to do it a couple times, unfortunately.
Yes, yes.
With my longer 3D, my longer orange one, it has a 50 millimeter, which I love because it moves up so far. I'm like, okay, now I got space to pour the resin in.
Yes. Oh, much better.
But as you see, this is a little bit time consuming. That's kind of the only drawback with this. It doesn't have the 50 millimeter. All right, so I feel that it's high enough now. Take the enclosure off. Shake up my resin.
And with resin mixing, you want it to be consistent.
Yes.
You don't want any swirls.
Pour it all the way in. I think that's the last of it. Oh man, I gotta get some more.
Oh, sorry. Mel Serious, what do you think about large bed filament printers? 300 by 300 by 400. I think that, honestly, I would call that a medium-sized printer. These enders are, I think, 220 by 220 by 230 or something odd now. The original one, I think, was 230, 250. Their big brother, who could probably print them off, the CR10S5. That is 500 by 500 by 500. And I love it because bigger is better. That said, bigger is also more problems. It is definitely more of a headache to try to get the bed leveling tuned down. So that was one where I put a lot more upgrades into. I have end of spool. Have a end of spool sensor is key, and then have your settings tuned accordingly, like having a adhesive build plate or something like that. Because when the spool runs out, usually the system cools down. And if it's on a glass plate, when the system cools down, the print lifts. And I've had a print that I wasn't there, spool ran out, bed cooled down, lifted up, and like, oh, I could change the spool, but it won't continue.
Yeah, oh man. That's what that's what I'm really scared about with getting a big resin printer, because the resin printer makes me feel a little bit safer than a spool printer, because the spool printer, I'm like, all right, I gotta wait for now. I'm like, if I go to sleep and I'm like, it uses up most of the spool, like the ones I had, like the Robo 3D, and then the my Creality, my Ender one that I haven't built yet. That Robo 3D one, oh my goodness, it will just keep going. It won't even stop. I'm like, it's like, it's just sitting there. I'm like, oh, it's done. I'm like, no, it's not done. You ran out of spool.
There is a cool thing you can do with Raspberry Pi called Octoprint. And there might be some other computers or small single boards that you can build this with, but it's called Octoprint. And you set that up, and there's a camera set up, and it'll notice if spaghetti occurs or noodling, print goes south, and it's just swinging in the air. It'll just stop the print ahead of time for you, and that's pretty cool. That's the only. I think it's like the last frontier for me for my FDMs, and I'm going to have to cross that hurdle at some point.
Yeah, and see, I think that's why I moved over to resin, because I was like,
because it's way more consistent for giving. If you can level a small resin printer, you can level a giant resin printer.
Exactly.
Lower the bed with a nuts. Once the bed is down, give a slight but decent amount of pressure throughout to feel that is comfortably pushed down across, and then tighten.
Yep. And just one. So sorry, just go back to this real quick. So the system, there's not much in here. There's language about, tells you about the printer, what firmware it's on. The volume, I guess it makes sounds. I have not turned the volume on, so I have no idea.
Oh yeah, it's pretty nice. It'll beep if it presses too far down on the screen, if there's too much pressure, and it'll also beep to what that is started or finished.
Oh, there you go. Well, we'll try with sound, see how it is. There is a service, which is nice. I like this, because if I ever have a problem, I need to know where to get help from. So the website, the email, and a telephone number that you can call them at. Not sure if I'm ever going to call that number, but
And I will say most people I've heard from have had really good experiences with reaching out to Creality support.
That's good. And then you have the print button. So as you can see, I have different models on here. Let me see if I can get a little bit closer here. Let me pop it out here. All right. So I don't know how good that's going to show up, but I have different models on here that I can print out. And they're all on the USB drive here. So I just load them on my load them off my computer onto the USB drive, and I can just cycle through every model that I want and just have it print out. So some of these I have some new. I haven't tried these. I only tried one on the new setting. I haven't tried anything else on the new setting. But we'll do. I think this is this is the unmasked snake eyes head. So I'm going to do this one here. And as you see, it already came. So when I got this model, it already came with the stance attachments already in the design for it. So only thing I had to do was really just put it on there and then print it. And as you can see, it'll start lowering down into the vat itself.
And as long as it took you to send it up, it will take you to come back down.
Right, and that's the only drawback too. And I was completely submerged in there.
And I'm trying to think. I will say with the Creality, once it starts, like the file setup, there you go. Say it's letting you know it's hit the bottom, put pressure, and another beep to let you know that it's begun.
There you go. And then you'll get the time. So it's 1 hour and 32 minutes for this. Tells you how long, where it's starting at, what layer it's on. I don't need to hear that beat. That is kind of annoying. But and it'll also show you like how the print's going as well too, which is I do like this. That is pretty neat.
Yeah, it's great for being able to see if you might have missed like a layer model or a layer error in the model, and you'll just see it on screen like, hey, it's printing. I really feel like that pocket should have something solid there. This might not be working.
Exactly. And just a couple other tools you'll need. Sometimes they'll send it with them. You'll need a scraper. This gets the print off of the for the resin printer. This gets it off of the print bed because you can't buy a flexible print bed on these. These are all metal, but this definitely comes in handy. I
will say there is a flexible print bed you can get, but I haven't tried it, and I'm just a little bit worried about it. I believe Captain America, Josh Wallen. He, I think, got it for one of his. I'll have to follow up with him and see how he's been enjoying it.
Yeah, let me know, because I'll be kind of weird about it too. I'm like, flexing. I don't know.
I feel like, this extra thing that I'm going to have to wipe down in between. I don't have to worry about resin buildup between this layer. Again, it's like magnet, but I feel like it's also, there's going to be some bubbles or some odd things.
Exactly. A box of disposable gloves. I got these off of Amazon. You get these almost anywhere. A microfiber cloth, so I can clean the vat and the print the print bed as well. So that's for cleaning it. Those are always good to have on. Then they will send you these as well. These are filters. So when you're done, when you want to clean out your vat, you get like a plastic cup or a jar. You pour what's in the vat into here, and it'll filter out anything that's not you're not going to put back into here. So there may be like some big chunks of resin that got stuck in there, and they'll catch it in here. So now you're not pouring that back into your resin bottle. which is very nice. These are always good to have. These filters, these are your best friends when you're using this.
If you run out, you can use coffee filters as well.
That
They
is
just
true.
take
Yes.
a bit longer to seep through.
So I will show the wash and cure as well. So this is my wash here. This is all alcohol in here. So this is when I use. So this is when I do any print that's not the water washable resin. And as you see, it's caked resin down the bottom. I don't know if you can really see that. But there's a little fan in here. What's that?
Quick one. White Mike Baguetta. With a filament printer, am I correct that you can recycle the supports? Yes, and recycle in the sense, throw them into a recycling bin with all the rest and send it out. Otherwise, there are, I'm trying to remember what they're called, filament extruders. That's becoming kind of a thing where you can recycle, toss your filament in there. It's best to keep it of the same type. If you have ABS, throw your ABS bits in the same. PLA plus, what have you, keep them separated. If you get something like a hand coffee grinder or something of the right sort, where you can then kind of finely break them up, or like a blender or something, you don't want to make it powder because it's, again, don't breathe this, want a mask on.
Right.
But then break up small bits, pour it into the re-extruder, and you have recycled filament. That is also an option.
And another thing, I've seen people making seeing YouTube videos where people are taking Mountain Dew bottles and making their own filament out of it. Yes. So there's that option there. I haven't done it myself. I'm not familiar with the process. I just only seen a couple of videos on it, but there's that option too, because that's different colors you're getting. But the thing is, with that, you gotta know what kind of temperature you gotta heat them up at that it's gonna work correctly for you. So this is the wash state. This is wash. Basically, I have my alcohol in here. The fan, it plugs onto the wash and cure machine. I would put this in. So I put this basket in with whatever I print it into the basket. It goes into here, and then basically the machine goes into a wash. Usually with my washes, right now I've been testing them out at 5 minutes to wash. I was doing 2 minutes, but I think 5 minutes is a little bit better for them as a wash. And then once it's done, I pull the basket out, and then let me slide on over here. Just out of the way here. And then it'll cure in this machine. So there's a plate that's in there already. Plate's already here. I put on here so I can just interchange it out with the wash. Put the plate in. That's the only part I hate. So I always got to match it up with the screws. It never wants to match up for me. I'm just doing it right now. There we go. And then as you see on here, there's different mode. There's cure and there's wash. You do a quick wash, normal wash, slow. I usually do normal, 5 minute time. And then you hit the start button. The UV lights will come on. I'll show you real quick. UV lights come on. It spins on the plate. And that's it. And then just once it's done, it'll beep, say that it's cured, and you're done. That's the full steps of it. But like I said, with the water washable, it's a little bit different. You're taking it out of the out of the printer, and just washing it with water. Basically, that's all you're doing is washing it with water, and you're good to go.
Now, I'll say what I recommend with using, because although resin I've used is usually the isopropyl, or what you have to rinse with isopropyl, and I have a 2-stage bath. So I have the first stage that goes in, and it's one of those rinse ones.
and it's more what I would call a diluted rinse because there's so much resin that comes off in that initial bath. But I feel it also allows the print to stay in it a little bit longer, and then from there I go to a second stage, and that bit of isopropyl stays cleaner for much longer, and that's where I get like any film that might be remaining rinsed off before putting under the curing light. I'm not sure if water resin would benefit from that same process or not. Yeah, I'm very curious. I'll have to get something to try out.
It's weird. So, okay, so I have a little bit of a, you can tell the difference here. So, the darker gray one is the water washable one. The lighter gray one is just a regular resin. Now, the difference with this one is I left it in the cure machine for 5 minutes. I'm going to try it next time for 2 minutes and see how it does. But as you can see, you still get the same amount of detail out of it. I think it's just because on this one here, I left it in the cure for too long.
Mm.
And I think it just gave it that darker color. Now, it could be also, too, that the water washable gray is a darker color than.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at least it's consistent. I'd be more alarmed if when you get like the white, you know about that, like that drop, like you're looking like forgot the lotion.
This one, the ashiness on it.
Yes.
So as you can see on this head, there is that dryness, and this was also cured at 5 minutes as well. So this head here,
kind of works well in the facial hair.
It does. Yeah,
it's like some grayscale.
But you know what's funny? It's a woman.
No.
So I mean, it looks good. Don't get me wrong. It looks it's pretty good, but I mean, you get great detail out of it. Don't get me wrong. The detail on it is amazing.
Oh yeah.
If I didn't do it for as long as I did it for the curing process, it would have been a whole lot better. It would have came out perfect.
And the reason we bring up the concern about the curing process is this affects the overall quality of the end print. It can become too brittle, or not have the ideal qualities to it as it should.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And that's what makes me so afraid with it. Sometimes, because it's like every time you're doing a print, you're always experimenting with it until you find that perfect sweet spot with it, and it's like, oh man, like I think I got the sweet spot with it. I think I found that sweet spot, and you're like, yeah, turn myself off. Yeah, and then you're like back to the drawing board again. I'm like, man.
Oh, absolutely. You know, whether it be most of your prints have been smaller items, and now you're going to a larger, and you're dealing with more suction on the screen. Mm-hmm. So with that, I might recommend experimenting with hollow settings or different cure times. And then also the inevitability is, oh, wow, that's a cool resin. I want to try that. Nope, need to change all my settings because things like, especially a translucent resin, much shorter cure time than something like a black or a gray. All these things, again, kind of like the filament impact the build process.
So I will show you what a 2-minute cure time looks like on the clear resin. I don't know how good that's showing up.
Oh yeah.
That's 2 minutes right there, and this is the clear. And I use this one. I had this one on default settings as well. I left it on default settings, and it turned out pretty well. I was just kind of excited. I was like, wow, just print out clear.
Yeah, it's sharp.
But yeah. So what I may try to do with it with clear is now I may try just do like a minute and a half and see how it does, because I can always cut it off.
Yeah, to try to adjust to how opaque it becomes.
Yeah.
So and the thing you can do to, and an option too with that is, depending on the size of the part, you can sand it, polish it to smooth it,
or sometimes putting on a clear coat will have the desired impact. But yes, like you said, curing impacts it. And the ones that I've used have been isopropyl, and I noticed different wash times also impact it. So all these things become factors.
Yes.
And the endeavor of course making prints and things better. My screen's up, yeah, or
Yeah,
we're
your
like
screen's
shared
on.
screens.
Yeah.
Go over some of the things. So of course, you're talking about the different tools, the spatulars. These are wonderful. The best thing I could recommend, if you can get one with this nice flat edge to it, that'll scoop right in. And if your settings are right for your bottom build plate, you should be able to just kind of wiggle your wrist and get it under. If you have to like chisel and hammer under there, maybe dial down a little bit, a few seconds, your bottom build plate time. That said, I do have a different experience with Tenacious. Again, different resins by Soraya Tech, which is a flexible resin, and that that sticks. That is on the build plate. Once you start to get it to go, it peels off. But that one, like you said, I'm still dialing, and then those settings to get that sweet spot. And then even ones that you think you're perfect, you still like to play with and try. And this one,
Right.
I tried to lower the build plate time, and as you can see, didn't pan out too well.
Yeah.
So some of them got all squished, and some of them, who knows, it might be recoverable on the end. I'm probably not going to worry about it. I'm just going to cut my losses. But with this, you can then bring out a cure station out of all sorts and just put it over the print, so that way the resin will cure. It'll be a little bit safer before tossing it out. I'll be dealing with that later. And I recommend part of all this setup is being mindful of how you're going to deal with the inevitable messes. I like to have one of these silicone mats with a lip to it. That way, most of the resin will stay right on there. That's where I peel it off, and everything on here I can then bring a UV light over and cure it or wipe it down. Most of the mess is gone, and then I like taking items out onto like a piece of cardboard or something thicker that I still put a panel under for kind of like a dry moment before I put it underneath the cure station. And
Yeah,
part of
you're
the
doing better than I am. Cause I just got I wrap up like four or five paper towels underneath it.
Oh yeah, I get fancy. So I went out. The dollar store, Walmart have these super cheap, nice metal mesh colanders of different sizes, because you take two of them and you put the parts between them. And I have an air gun, and I'll just blast it through, and that way, if I want to make sure everything's dry and thorough, and all the residues off of it before going to the cure station, it's good.
Right.
But I kind of skipped over the air blasting and substitute for doing the double bath. So I have the primary, see how gray that is,
Yeah.
and the second bath still staying very, very clear. But from there, I like using water to then suspend my parts. So I'll throw all the parts into the water, and it'll help reflect and the light as I put it underneath a UV cure station, because I'm often dealing with a bunch of parts at once. And it seems to come out with this very nice consistent feeling. I got a lot less of the ashiness occurrences.
Right. Yeah, I may have to try that myself, because I think that may work a little bit better. With like washing with water afterwards, and try that and see how it works out. Because
another option for some of the small parts is get an ultrasonic cleaner. These are just magical. You throw your parts in there into solution. So it'll be water in there, but you could take a bag and put isopropyl in it or certain other containers and put your parts inside, and it will just vibrate, separate from the surface, take your parts out, and they will look pristine.
See now, yeah, Lord, now this is getting deeper. When he's running now, I'm like, I'm going to need another 2 jobs for this.
Right.
So I hope that helps you a little bit, like on the printing. And like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Uh, hey, all those workshops here. He was. I know he had made a comment too. If you can post it again, because I for some reason disappeared. But he said there was a different program that he used as well. I think it was. I know they had it at the one place I was going to. I forget the name of it now, but I think it was called. I think it was like Rhinoceros. He was using.
Hmm. Is that
Uh,
for a slicer?
no, it was for designing for more of the designing
Oh,
end. Rhino. Yeah, Rhino. Yeah, it was. It's pretty good. I really didn't deep dive into it. Um, it it seemed like it was on that end that you need to sit down and kind of play with it before you can do anything. But it looked pretty good. Like you got some decent prints because I needed help when somebody was designing these. Like it didn't work in Thingiverse. Like and so we worked it in
Hmm.
Rhino to get it to where it could print where it just can print on PLA because the PLA filament was just destroying this. It could not print it at all. Even with the supports on it, it still was not coming out like it was supposed to.
Yeah, super frustrating.
Yeah, it was. It took me like almost like a full year to try to get this to work. And actually, resin was the best way to go about with this one. ML series says, "What are your experiences with various filament slicers?" Um, that's a good
Yeah,
question.
that's what I'm gonna say. Yeah. Let me swap back over to my other setup. How? Yeah, so I'm gonna drop off on this. I'll be right
All
back.
right. So my other, ugh, I haven't. I don't know. That is a very good question. I'm trying to figure out the best way to answer that.
Yeah, because I'm probably much like you, where I kind of got one that's been working and I stuck with it.
Yeah,
So for my filament ones, I use Cura, and for my resins, I use Box. That
yeah,
said, I do know that there are some bells and whistles that people praise about. I think like Prusa Slicer. I think that's has like some sort of paid version, and it has some sort of uh, very good like support feature, like how it like makes the supports for your models. It's able to do some like amazing calculations for like the best way to do it. But that's to be expected, I guess, because most of these are,
right.
the slicers are free. So if you are paying for it, I'd hope that there's something incentivizing it.
Yeah, I think I stick with Cure all the time. And then yeah, Chitty Box is what I use for my resin. Like now, the only one I don't use, which is the off one, is my longer resin printer because that uses is kind of like its own, but it came with it, so it's not too bad. But it's like, all right, I just import it, say what size, and I'm done. Like it's pretty simple. It's not like rocket science to it, but it works pretty well. It's an odd working to it because it's like it makes you click on each step to go through like the slicing part, how to slice this. Um, but it's not too bad. It's just kind of like weird. It's like
Yeah.
okay, all this that could be done in just like two steps. Now I'm doing it like doing each step by step by step. I'm like, okay, but yeah, those are like the same two that you use is mostly the same two that I use. I really haven't deviated from any of them because I haven't used Cure in a while because I haven't used my PLA printers in a while. I've been sticking with my resin ones for the moment. Uh, because with those you gotta make sure you stay up on them because that resin, if it's just there for too long, don't be like me. Let it sit there for too long and not be used, and you're like, oh, all right, yeah, it's time to print, and then it comes out all gooey and messed up. I'm like, oh, dang it! Now I
Yeah,
gotta
yeah,
clean the
yeah.
whole thing out. Oh,
It's too
that
hard
was
to
one
get
other
to
thing.
mix right.
Yes, I'm gonna say this little plastic scraper here. If you have not, please, if it doesn't come with it, please just invest something in plastic scraper because this is your best friend when you clean out that vat and you got a whole you got a print stuck to the bottom of it, or you're just like scraping out the resin out. This works perfectly. This is I'm glad Creality put this in there. I understand they said like the playing cards that you can use, but this is my go-to tool for cleaning
Oh
up.
yeah. Another trick is to have a clean set of gloves, lift up the vat, and just kind of like rub your knuckles or something along the edges of the stuck print. It'll lift right up, and then yeah, you go right in with the scooper and fetch it out.
Yep. Also, too, I don't. It's a little bit farther away, but I also keep a spray bottle of alcohol with me.
Yes, yes. Like having like that, and I'd say yes, have a depose station. Some like that part of your setup is where you're going to need to toss it because you're going to be generating support trash, so you want to be ready to toss that. And like my filament printers, I try to have bags near all of them, so all the little bits of supports and things that might snap off immediately to look at it immediately can go somewhere. Because otherwise, what will happen is you're going to put it next to the printer, and it'll just keep building up, and all of a sudden, like, I need to sweep this off.
Yep.
Going back to some of the keeping the different slicers and trying them. I had used the same slicer for a long time, and I'd moved from my setup in the basement to my new house here, and the setup in the attic, and along with it were changes in like the temperature and the humidity in the house and these different places, and it was causing a lot of issues for my print for me to figure out what, and I was trying to dial it down, but I didn't realize another issue, that my Cura had become too far updated to some of my firmware on my Ender. And I was just getting some like odd print errors that I would have noticed because like when I'm doing it, looks fine, looks like it's sliced fine. But it wasn't until, like of course when I see the print come out, like what the hell is going on? I'm thinking there's something wrong with the printer. That I loaded files that it had sliced the G code back into Cura. And I saw, whoa, this looks exactly like the wrong print. Why is it like this? And to show you what I mean, like here's a quarter section of how this should look. It's all nice and smooth. There's no like odd lines or geometry. Here's this piece where it was like, yeah, I'm just going to put lines and layers here and put some extra triangles. And at least I caught it early, but you can see that it creates all sorts of odd issues to it. And then to go along with the concept of you're always going to have these little supports, and probably especially on a fresh print, boom, you're going to drop them. Have a bag there. Just have the bag there.
And also with that, you gotta be careful too, like with that, because I did that with my Creality, the one that I have up on the screen. I didn't know it did not support the newest version of Chichi Box, and so when I went to use it, it said this is not supported. It can't find the file.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh crap! I'm like, now I gotta roll it back. I gotta roll that slicer back, and then go back to the old one. And every time it pops up, it's like, hey, do you want to update? I can't update it because my printer doesn't support it.
Yep. I
And so
would
I'm
much
like,
rather this work.
right. And I'm like, it's got to be a way that the Creality can be updated. It's got to be some firmware update for it. And so I haven't really sat down and figured it out, but I'm sure there's a way to probably update it with the new update, so it can take the update for the newest update from the slicer as well.
Mm-hmm. I
Mr.
feel
Ortega,
like,
sorry,
I was gonna say, I feel like eventually the Chitty Box, wherever they get enough feedback from people like us, where it's like, oh, what we did not realize, we offlined that printer. Yeah, so we'll catch up. Or enough people complain to Creality, who then like, hey, we have a partnership here. Fix it.
right. Mr. Ortega says, which Resin 3D printer would you recommend? Some say 2K, 4K. Does that matter a lot? Yes. 4K, you're going to get a better and cleaner print. Let me just pull it up here. I can tell you which one I am using. And you'll get some good prints out of it. Let me bring it up here.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to show up. It's probably going to be way too small to see steps. But that's what the factor will be with like a 2K, 4K is there's the pixel density, because the big benefit with the resin printer is it's usually printing at like 50 or 30 or even less microns versus a FDM, which is probably printing at 100 or 200. so you'll see the staircase effect as it goes and builds up through the model. That probably shows up better. Oh, here we go. Like this roof piece. So you can see, the staircase is forming. With the denser screens, well, in combination with it having these lower micron layer printing, it's able to make this much denser. So it's able to kind of like isolate and just smooth out the details to a finer level. So like if you had I'm trying to think, like a quarter of a millimeter pinhole, you could do that on a 2K, but you couldn't do that on a 1080. And then maybe on a 4K, you can print a 0.1 millimeter pinhole, whereas otherwise the pixel would be too large or too small or what have you to be able to make the shape for the UV curing for the resin printer to make it.
Yeah. This one doesn't have the price on here. This is weird. Don't know why. Let's see. So I'm trying to look for the price on here, but I think they changed up their website.
Which one?
Creality's website. I think they changed it up.
Well, yeah, and I'm trying to remember too, because there's like, is that one of the ones where there's Creality and then there's Creality 3D and Creality 3D official?
Yeah, 3D. I think that's why I didn't go 3D official. That's what it was. I think this is it. So I'm bring this up here. There you go. So this is the. So this was a new one. I think this is a new one. The Howlett. Yeah.
Yep.
This is not a bad deal because they give you 500 milliliter, 5 bottles of 500 milliliter Creality resin with it. Plus, you're getting a printer. That's not a bad deal at all.
Yeah, because those are like $15-$20 a pop.
Exactly.
Bottles.
Wait till you start. Wait till you start getting into the bigger ones. And you're like, this is unreal. This is unreal.
Oh yeah. Oh, what a $90 one liter bottle. Ooh.
Oh no, I don't pay that much. I go to Amazon and get mine because they're pretty.
Oh no, I'm talking about like some of the specialty resins where it's like,
oh okay, yes,
yeah, I've printed all these regular ones. So I want to try something exotic. Oh, I want that what is that that's fancy steak.
Yeah, because that flexible one. Oh my goodness, I was floored when I see how much it was.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, all right, I'll try it. I got white, and I was like, man, I'm like, before I do this, I got to do some more research before I get some more flexible.
Oh, absolutely.
But this one's a good starter printer. Like this is pretty good. So you'll get a good deal on these. And I'm not trying to say Creality is the best one out there. I like them because they do give a lot of support to the consumers. I like their printers. They're very easy to manage. They give you very simple instructions to follow, and they're very easy to set up.
I will say if you're looking for one that's a little bit bigger, the Anycubic Mono X, and I think it's now the Mono X 4K or something.
Yeah. Let's see. Anycubic. Let me pull that up here.
Oh, you're very welcome, Bones, the PhD candidate. Dr. Bones.
Oh, you're welcome. As always, my man William, always supporting. I appreciate you, sir. Let's see. Here it is. It's on Amazon too.
Mm-hmm.
At $699.99. It's not too bad. I'm not sure how much.
Well, I'd say wait because I thought the sale was still going on, but they have flash sales from time to time, and I think it's like $530.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that one Oh, well, it also might be because it's the 4K. I might be thinking the Mono X. Because I think the Mono X original was 2K, and then oh no. That's one of those other ones where it gets tricky. The one thing I will say is most people have the benefit that your screen is going to have their constant reference to mono is a monochrome screen, and the benefit there is UV curing is indiscriminate. You don't need the full spectrum of light to make this machine. You're just burning out your screen. So someone came along with the idea of saying, hey, let's just have the screen on or off. And now they last much longer and cure much faster.
See now, like this is not another printer I need to look into. I need to stop looking at this.
I think, yeah, I think if you're looking at another one, we should just pull money and go on a bigger one.
Oh yeah, I already know which one. You already told me
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I'm looking at.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm thinking like, oh, I'll just send this money to Dante and he'll make it happen.
that one. Oh my goodness! I'm telling you, when I get that one, it's on and popping. I'm making big stuff.
This is, oh, absolutely. It's like, yep, I made a full suit of armor first day.
Right. The only problem with it is it's going to be a pain in the butt to clean because it has those little holes in it, the poor holes in it. Like,
yeah, I'm very eager to see how that'll pan out. But yeah, we'll cross that hurdle when we'll get there, and
exactly.
we will get
we're
there.
Gonna have to. Yeah, because I don't know if I'm going to be about that life anymore.
But I need to be able to print giant Lego bricks and just build my own home.
Yeah. Okay. So you're talking about
this.
Yeah. So this is the sell you. So this is on Anycubic's website. It's $529. It's actually cheaper on their website directly through them.
Absolutely, and that's one. Yeah, highly recommend. A big fan of it, and it's Wi-Fi enabled, which creates some really cool features. So there's an app where, say you create your print, and what you mentioned earlier, a big part of doing your prints is making adjustments. Well, instead of having to create a bunch of different files with different settings, you can create your file, and then you can either adjust it on screen or through the app and make little fine tunes and see how it turns out. And then from there, you can easily dial it in and say, oh, these are my new settings, and then go change it in your slicer and set from there. It's like a little feature, but it adds up to so much.
Yeah. So we got a few more minutes left, and I'll put these links in the description as well too. So if you want to check them out, I know a lot of people have been thinking about getting printers and had them on their wish list, and I don't mind you hit me up, asking questions. I love it. Like, I'm loving that people are interested in this and have always been interested in it. Because trust me, when I first read about these, starting to become like a little bit out there for everybody to see, it was like, man, I'm like wow, like $1,000 for a 3D printer. Can I ever afford one? It's like,
oh yeah.
It's like, I don't know. Like, are they going to make them consumer friendly? Is this just going to be manufacturer friendly? Like,
before long, we're going to be seeing like the $100, $50 ones at the dollar store and CVS and odd places where it's like, oh, that seems like the right last minute Christmas gift.
Exactly. So before we got out of here, we just wanted to talk about like kind of where we get our ideas from to design and to like create stuff. I was saying a little bit earlier, most of my stuff I see and I try to create, it comes out of comics. That's it. Like,
absolutely, yeah. You got you see that scene, and just some of them are just so iconic that it's like you have to recreate that, and that's where most of us begin. Where it's like, oh, I need the figures, but then once you have all the figures, it's they need this item, they need this accessory, what have you. Just talking about that, like I looked up at comics because I was thinking like I want to make a bike sculpt, and I was like, well, let me begin. Like, what is the most common one, or maybe a cool future one, or something like that. And so, yeah, just search comic cycle, and there's kind of like a red Sportster bike that keeps showing up. So that's the one I'm thinking like, all right, that might be my good start point. I think it's very works with so many of the figures, and from there I can then have a mold to then create and manipulate. Because a big fan of when I'm creating these things is try to create like a library. So once I create a part, I can always go back and tweak it and make more things. So if I got a cowboy hat, well, let me save it in the right way so I can adjust the brim and the folds. And there's 48 styles. Let me be able to do those. So besides the comics, of course, the animated ones, I think DC animated is probably to this day my favorite like adaptation of comics to like a video form. So there's often like moments from that. And then some just really cool fan art. And do you know what I'm talking about, the dark Jar Jar? I don't know if I'm going to be able to easily pull up a photo.
I think so. I think I know which one you're talking about.
But like that one was making its rounds, and let me see. I got sculpt over here. And so that inspired me. I was like, well, I want to make that. Like I got all these extra Jar Jars. So I'm like, yeah, I think the Sith Lord Jar Jar seems like a wonderful idea. I got a bit of evil. I need to work on finishing up his ears and then make the cut for the head insert. But yeah, it's just there's it's the certain art really pops and appeals, and especially if it's it's just a true hero of the Republic. Yes, it's like especially when there's like good what's it conspiracy theories and things around the
Oh
characters.
yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I need to have the mastermind behind it, Jar Jar, and I might also go through and make the Jedi Jar Jar, because I think that was another good side story where it seemed that he definitely demonstrated abilities of the Force throughout. So people can talk trash on the character, but I was okay with them.
That's okay. Well, as long as you're okay with it. Yeah, I don't like Jar Jar. I'm not a Jar Jar fan. Cannot stand that.
Oh
Cannot
no,
stand
yeah,
that
yeah. Annie!
dude.
I love that in the Star Wars. Or I'm
Yeah.
sorry, in Robot Chicken.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Annie, look at me. What are you doing here, Jar Jar? You're dead. What are you here? This is my wedding night. Oh, what's it like? I think for me, it's so like if I see something or reference, I have like a whole dedicated file to like references that I'm like, oh, this would be good for a 3D print. Oh, this would be good for a 3D print as well. Now, the one thing I have played with is taking a 2D image and converting it over into a 3D image.
Very
That,
fun.
yeah. So I've been kind of playing with that a little bit. Uh, I want to work on a little bit about scanning because I was asked about scanning a while ago. I forget by who, but I was asked about kind of like how scanning works for it, and I want to get a true scanner, not just like apps that they have, like pay apps or free apps. I want to get like a true scanner and see how it compares and works.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
like I really like the I think they call photogrammetry.
Mm.
The where you take the whole bunch of pictures, and I'm trying to remember what the app is, if it's Mesh Mixer or what, but there's like 2 or 3 free apps out there. You take a bunch of pictures of the object around it, and you need I think an NVIDIA graphics card, and it will go through and try and create a render based off those images, and it does a pretty amazing job. But at the same time, there's just like I think, like you said, there's an advantage to getting hardware that's designed for it, because one of the features that most of those have is 2 camera angles, which greatly diminishes the level of error and increases the level of detail it can get on some like the small parts. And especially, I'm sure you're going to be trying to scan some 1/12 figures and things where it's like,
Yeah.
I need to get this detail right for this thing to sculpt, because I want to do something similar with a Jar Jar, like to make out the armor for I got a whole bunch of the clearance ones, so I can make warriors out of them.
Exactly. Yeah. And 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 I'm going to tell you, like a product. I'll just do this real quick here. Let me see. Like a product of comics. These handcuffs.
Mm-hmm.
This is from the House of X series.
Yep.
This is the design that was in that book. So that tells you right, like kind of right there, like that get your creative juices flowing. That will make you want to like, man, I really like that. Let me go ahead and save that to to a folder somewhere, and then when I come back to it, hit a little bit of time, I'm like, okay, now I can sit here and plan out and design it. Uh, Other ideas is like where I get from is when I'm playing with a figure, I'm like, man, there's accessories that's missing with this figure that would work well with it. And I
Oh
think
yes.
if Hasbro added on there, like, man, this will set this figure off, it'll be on fire. So and there's like other figures out there, not just Hasbro, but other companies, like with the Joker, Hush Joker, that just came out because he doesn't have a gun. People saying, oh, well, you can just go grab it from this other figure. For me, it was like, I grab it from another figure. I could just print it out. Like
Absolutely.
I can tell you right now, there's a ton of like bang guns on probably Thingiverse, things.com. Somebody's already designed it. All you gotta do is just print it out. It, and I always say too, this is one of my I keep this with me. It's my little book of ideas. I'll write down something, and I'll be like, all right, let me go see what I want to do today. Like, what's something I want to design really right now?
That's a
Go
good
page to
call.
there. Yeah, page through this. Bam. All right, cool. Or if I'm just sitting here, like, think, because sometimes you don't see a picture and you're just like, you're working and something just pops in, like, yo, that'd be a great idea. Let me go ahead and drop that down. You write it down, you good. Like, you always remember it.
Yeah, I try to do that, and then often I have the voice record, on the home screen. So I'll try to, if at the very least, click that, say it. So that's, yeah, you got it, because that's the worst. It's like, oh man, I had this idea. What do I want to do again?
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. Yep. It's just like there's things in here I still haven't even touched yet. That I still need to go back through and kind of figure out and play with. Um, and it's like my buddy wanted a Justice Society of America table. I was like, man, I was like, that is a cool one. I didn't think about that. Like, have a full table, like with the Justice Society from DC around, like have them stand around it because they
Oh,
had
yeah.
that round table. So that was something I still haven't really played with too much.
I had an issue with when I started creating, was I'm not sure if this happens to you too, where like, so you have a bunch of these ones and you go and you find a bunch of the files that might be already created, and you download so many where it's like, oh man, I forgot that I still need to try to print these.
Yep.
I came, of course, issue with that, but I've now been generating so many that I'll run into issues because like I'm working on multiple computers. I'm just constantly trying to get organized. So it's like, oh crap, I have this file, but it's on that computer, and like I have like cloud shared storage and all, but that's filling up. So it's like, oh, I need to go through and delete all my old versions and sort it out. That is one thing I recommend getting into this is figure out your method for organization, because
Yeah.
there will become a day where it's like, oh my gosh, I have so many projects and ideas.
Exactly. I had this, like, I actually sat down like not too long ago. I had to start moving like all my, like what I had downloaded from like other websites into a folder. I'm like, all right, so let's put this all into the 3D reference folder. I'm like, all right, let's move it all over because I didn't want my computer getting filled up with, like, the hard drive filled up with, like, taking out all that space up from the design. So I'm like, all right, let's move it over. So now I have my other terabyte. So I have two 1 terabyte hard drives. And I'm telling you right now, if you're going to be doing this, just go ahead and invest in a terabyte hard drive.
Yep.
Because you're going to be putting a lot of stuff on there. You're going to be backing up like any programs that you downloaded. You need to download for your printers. So it's all cut. Just to invest into a good terabyte hard drive. You'll be good with that. You won't be filling it up too fast, but you still have space enough that you want to have space on your computer. So when you run programs like Fusion 3D, Rhino, what's another one? Thingiverse is not too bad because it's a website, but it still can slow down sometimes. I know I'm missing one. What's another one?
Yegi,
Yeah.
Thingiverse. Gosh, there's a third one that like is one of my top three. It's escaping me right now.
Oh, SketchUp.
Yep, that's SketchUp.
SketchUp, and those programs, because they are resource hogs. Anytime you're doing design, any of those programs are resource hogs. So you want to make sure you have enough free space on your computer that you're going to be able to run those programs as well. All right, man.
Pull up a glimpse of another working project if it'll work with me.
Call 3D is a thing, yes.
Call
I
3D, yes.
I haven't fooled with them too much. I have some stuff saved with them, but I haven't been back on the site for like I want to say a good 6 or 7 months. So I have to go back on there and check them out. But they are a thing, yes. Is that Master Mold?
Eventually, this guy is going to turn into quite a few things. I wanted some that, going back to what inspires us. As much as I love these guys, I would like them to look a little bit more like the show for another setup. So, and then there's going to be a bunch that are just going to be thrashed. And I'm like, Yeah, I could print these, and even print failures will be successes. So that'll hopefully go well. But another project is I want to give this man a set of 3 arms, and from there I
Ooh,
have a bunch of
tricycle.
other a bunch of other multi-arm projects. But yeah, that is the big go-to is start with that, and assuming that goes well, then scale it up to make a giant master mold. Make a little edit to the chest so that there's a panel that can drop down and load a sentinel in the bay.
Yeah. Ooh, can't wait to see that. I would love a Tri-Sentinel. Like,
Yeah, so I was trying to look at mine. I found a screw at the shoulder joint, and I was debating, do I try to take a set apart and see if I could create and modify one?
right.
And I'm just super leery about it. I'm hoping that I stumble across a video where someone else has already taken it apart first to verify. Um, and so I was like, I could go the safe route and just make my own.
And see, that's another thing. Like, that's another reason why I want a scanner too, because at least then when if I scan it in, then now I have now something something I can play with now. Like I could kind of sit there and kind of mold it and design it the way that I want it to be,
Absolutely.
and without having taken apart at that point.
Yeah, with that, let me see. Pull up another piece. There we go. Yeah, so once you have scans in, another fun thing that can be done if these will load. I'm working on my key tools. I used to just kind of do it figure by figure in the past, but I'm trying to make a custom one that I can adjust. And as you can hopefully see on the screen, this one is backwards. One minute. Do 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 do. I don't know what it's processing. But anyways, okay, there you go. Select. Yeah, I don't know why it's not happy about me bringing these in. Oh, that's why I'm in sculpt mode. Yeah, so making these key cutting tools though, so once you have something scanned in, or maybe you found a nice like statue mold or something else, I've gotten quite good at being able to create my sculpts, but also manipulate them. And now I know from that I could probably go manipulate other sculpts. So it'd be one of those fun things where you could go and um, find a nice statue online where it's like, man, that figure would be great if I could just bring it to life. And oh yeah, take the right tools, put them at the right locations, and now suddenly that's an option.
Yeah, definitely. And don't worry, folks. We are working on stuff together, so we're going to try to bring you some cool stuff here. It's just going to take a little bit of time. We're working this, but we're definitely
It's
working together to
only
bring some
session
cool
2.
stuff.
We just want to
Yeah.
make sure to cover all of our bases. And I thought we were both getting a lot of the requests about just the setup, and we wanted to make sure that everyone gets started off with the right information, because that is
Okay.
the biggest part of the battle. And like I said, we both put many years into learning about these, so hopefully our time invested can save some time invested for you. You can just hit the ground running.
There you go. All right, folks. Well, this is another episode wrapped up for you. You can catch this on our YouTube channel, The Infinity Equation. You can also catch it's also running on Twitter as well. And this was a soft launch for Twitch. So if you do like Twitch and you want to watch on Twitch, you can do that too. So this is a little soft launch to see how it worked on Twitch. Let's see how it goes on there. So that'll be something for 2022. It'll be another channel, another server that will be broadcasting on to give you more options when you're on the go. If you're not able to get on YouTube or Twitter itself. Oh, you're welcome, ML Series. You are very much welcome. And we appreciate all questions you all have. Like I said, we have a good time answering them because I love helping everybody learn about 3D printing and learn more about how to get into the world of 3D printing. Because a lot of people, when you tell them like, yeah, like I do 3D printing, like what's that? They don't know. So it's always fun to explain and give a good detailed information about it. Um, Before we get out of here, I don't have anything. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I get out of here, Infinity Equation has come back. The podcast is back on Friday nights again. We just did our most recent episode on Friday. And then we'll be having another episode this week. And then the week of Christmas will probably be no episode. So, and then probably the week of New Year's as well, which I think it's the same week, isn't it? I can't remember.
Yes, yeah, always hard to keep track once it gets towards the tail end.
I know. So the last 2 weeks of December, there'll be no episodes at that time for the Infinity Equation. But, we will still be here. So our next episode will be December 19th. And we'll be bringing you another Infinity Creators episode at that time. We'll list the topics off that we'll be going over on that one. That's all I have at the moment. Unless you got anything else there, DJ.
No, I'm just thank you again for and hopefully we covered like everyone's questions, and from there hopefully we can move into, like we said, we talked about what inspires us, but you know what I'm here for. I love to create.
Yes.
So hopefully we'll be able to start making some of these sculpts, and maybe some of the people here can chime in with their, what some of the things that they've wanted to see brought to life, and we can make it happen.
Exactly.
And go from there.
There you go. Well, folks, appreciate y'all coming to hang out with us. We will see you in 2 weeks. Y'all be safe, be good, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you then.